And we're going to talk Brady versus Eagles, as I am going to give you my preview, gut feeling thoughts right here, right now. But someone who's waited patiently for her little cameo is our daughter Hazel, our little 1 and 4 month old Maltese. The baddest Maltese this side of Malta. If you could only see her play chase with me and wrestle with me, you'd say, wow, she's a Maltese. I'm trying to raise her as a boy, but she's a girl. Ernestine, my wife, doesn't love it, but she's going to hand me Hazel, who's getting a little too big for me to even hold her. There you are. Hi. Hi. She's got to clean my nose before I do Facebook. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hazel, look at Facebook. Look. 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 Aw. She's been rooting for Tom Brady. She was rooting for Dad's pick, the Eagles. Thank you. You got to go back to your mom now. I got to talk to Facebook. Here, thank you very much, Ernestine, my wife. She's back from her week in New York. She missed me. Actually, I missed her more. But I am not going to miss Undisputed tomorrow because I am happy with what happened today. I had the Patriots before the year started to win the Super Bowl. I had the Eagles all last week because I kept saying on Undisputed, it is a flat-out joke. It is a joke that the Philadelphia Eagles, are 3-point underdogs at home in that stadium where I've been many, many times watching the team I used to cover, the Dallas Cowboys, among other teams. I saw the 49ers there. Saw a lot of teams there. Covered a lot of games there. It's a hard place to win a playoff game. I didn't see that coming. That was a wipeout. And by the way, I didn't think it was all Case Keenum's fault. He didn't play great, but he didn't play poorly. But, as I said on Undisputed all year long, I never was sold on the Viking defense. I know statistically by the end of the year, it was number one because it allowed the fewest points, so I give it that. But, I don't know, something was missing that really isn't missing from the Eagles defense, or for that matter, the Jaguars defense. So I kept saying all last week, wait a second, the Eagles are just a better overall football team than the Minnesota Vikings. Again, I heard for the Vikings fans, I tweeted this during the game, you went for all-time stunning elation, the most unbelievable walk-off play I've ever seen in any sport. And there aren't very many, and there's never been one in a playoff game, a walk-off play. We see a lot of them in football. We see a lot of, in basketball. And we see a lot of them, obviously, in baseball, walk-off home runs, walk-off shots. But that was it, man. That took my cake. And Viking fans are just going to have to live with that. I'm sorry. I don't think there's any hangover. I don't think it was about Case Keenum just isn't good enough. I think Case Keenum's better than Sam Bradford. I'm a University of Oklahoma fan, as many of you know. I watched every snap Sam Bradford took in college, and I never loved him. And I just don't think he's better than Case Keenum. Never was the biggest Teddy Bridgewater fan at Louisville. It's been okay, pretty good. Is he better than Case Keenum? Does he have that spark? Case Keenum had a great year, 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, threw for 300 in his first playoff start against pretty good Saints defense that rose up to 10th in the league at the end of the year in scoring defense. Obviously, I bleed for Marcus Williams. If you're watching out there right now, Marcus, hang tough. It was just a crazy, inexplicable decision, but you got to get up and get over it. And I have no idea what Marcus was doing. But it took that play for the Vikings to survive. And I still don't know how it happened, but it happened. And I'd picked the Saints going into the playoffs just because they had beaten Nick Foles at the end of the 2013 season, 26-24 on a walk-off field goal at Philly. So I thought maybe Drew Brees with that defense and his new running game. We had, hope you saw it, Alvin Kamara was on Undisputed on Friday. What a great kid he is. He's a live wire. Really enjoyed him. And I enjoyed watching him. So I gave the Saints a little better chance. So the Vikings got their elation and predictable deflation because they got depleted today in Philadelphia. It was just a complete wipeout. Do you realize, I tweeted this, Nick Foles' offense had 403 yards after 3 quarters against that vaunted Mike Zimmer #1 ranked defense of the Vikings. Nick Foles' offense through 3 quarters was 8 out of 10 on 3rd down. That's unfathomable against that defense, but he did it. And I kept saying all last week, if you watched Undisputed, Nick Foles is better than Vegas has given him credit for. I mean, think about this. Nick Foles went to Austin Westlake High School, Drew Brees High School. It's a passing powerhouse. They were really good. He was a top national recruit. He committed to Arizona State. Then he switched to Michigan State, went up there, didn't like it, went back to Arizona, not Arizona State. And he was sensational in the Pac, whatever it was then. Was it 12 yet? I think it was. But his last year at Arizona, he threw for 4,000 yards. And if he hadn't been in that loaded draft that year, man, it was Andrew Luck and RG3, Tannenbaum, that Miami quarterback I don't like, Ryan Tannehill. Tannenbaum's now the GM of Miami, but a loaded draft. I could just go down the list. Brandon Weeden was in there. And yet some people were making the case that Nick Foles should be a first round, like a late first round pick. Some people made the case before that draft that Nick Foles might be the best quarterback in that draft. And Chip Kelly, quote unquote, stole him in the 3rd round. And all he did in his first year of starting for Chip Kelly was 27 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. I used to kid on the old show on ESPN, Foles Gold. It's just hard to buy into him at that point, being 27 to 2 good. But I admire him, and he's got some athletic ability. In fact, at Austin Westlake, he got recruited after his senior year of basketball by Texas and Baylor to be a basketball player. So he moves around okay. He's not that fat. He's a 5', 40 guy. But still, you realize he's 6'6"? Shannon Sharp always says, that's too tall for a quarterback. Paxton Lynch, just too tall for a quarterback. Brock Osweiler, too tall for a quarterback. Well, let's see what Shannon has to say tomorrow about Nick Foles. I kept saying all week, this he's pretty good. And he's got a big arm. He threw some deep balls tonight that were really good. Torrey Smith should have caught the first big deep ball, and then everybody caught the next one and the next one and the next one, and all of a sudden the game's completely out of control. And he moved a couple times out of the pocket and made deeper throws, mid-range throws. He's pretty good. But here's the point. Philadelphia is a really good football team. The offensive line is underrated. I know they lost Jason Peters, one of the better left tackles, but that big Vitae, I don't know. Every game I watched, I don't see anything go wrong over there. My Cowboys lost their left tackle, Tyron Smith, before the game at Atlanta, the turning point game of the year for my Cowboys, and somebody named Chaz Green was over there at left tackle, and what happened? Adrian Claiborne, I didn't even know he was on the Falcons roster. I loved him before his draft. He just faded off my radar screen. He comes up with 6 sacks in one game, and they had 8 total on Dak Prescott, all from the blind side. My God, they tried to put Byron Bell in there for a while, but Big V over there, I don't, and again, it's seen and not heard. If you don't hear from them, that means they had a pretty good game, right? That offensive line, Lane Johnson's the bookend on the other end from the University of Oklahoma. Go Sooners. It's really good. It's veteran. It's savvy. It plays with an edge. And can they run the football? They're really good. I think they're 2nd rushing in the league. And could the New England Patriots have used LeGarrette Blount today? The Patriots ran for a grand total of 46 yards, and Tom Brady still pulled it out. They just couldn't run a lick on Jacksonville. And Jacksonville wasn't that great against the run. So I'm going to give the Eagles a big edge there. LeGarrette against his former team, he's going to have big chips on both shoulders. Man, Jay Ajayi, again, the Dolphins thought he was expendable, but come on. He can rip and slash. He runs angry. And he's capable of coughing up the football, but the Patriots, they don't force turnovers. They're like, what, 25th in the league in creating turnovers? They got none today against Jacksonville, against Blake Bortles. They got none. They gave up one that I thought was questionable because I still think that Deion Lewis, as he went down, got stripped from behind, caught from behind by a Miles Jack stud athlete. Again, he ripped the ball away, but it looked to me like Deion Lewis reclaimed the ball and recontrolled the ball on his hip and still had control when he was down. But they went with the call on the field, and it didn't matter because Tom Brady still pulled it off. But my point is that look at the Eagles' defense. It will turn the ball over. It will create turnovers, and they created two. One because of Chris Long, the former Patriot from last year. He's making the same difference for the Eagles that he made for the Patriots. He made one big play, got a holding call. He forced a holding call, obviously, in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. And today, he made one huge play early in that game when it was still teetering, and he brushed, sort of raked the arm of Case Keenum. Ball flew a little bit on him, intercepted, and not only intercepted, but poor tackling, poor angles, and a couple of good blocks later. And who was it? Patrick Robinson, I believe, scored. It was huge. It just turned the whole game. From that moment and play on, boom. All hell broke loose on the Minnesota Vikings. So, and then they picked him again. That was Case Keenum's fault at the end. Darby got his hands on the ball, bounced up in the air. But again, Case Keenum did not play that badly. It's just that Nick Foles' offense it's pretty good. It's pretty hard to stop. They run lots of run-pass options. Their whole offense is based on Nick Foles making sound, quick decisions. Not that he can run it, but he can either let it go to the back going one way, or he can pull it back and step up and hit the backside receiver on a slant. And now the Patriots have 2 weeks to try to take that play because that's the staple of this offense. That's what they've been doing with Nick Foles from the start. They also do it with Carson Wentz. But again, they can run it. And those receivers, remember, they went out in the offseason and they brought them in. Aguilar is now not the number one guy, so he didn't have as much pressure, doesn't drop as many balls, and he's a threat as a rip and slash guy out of the slot over the middle. And then you got Torrey Smith running deep, and he can still get behind just about anybody. And obviously the big guy, Alshon, can snatch it as he snatched the late touchdown pass up high in the end zone from Nick Foles. And they're really good. And I didn't even mention the biggest, baddest target is Zach Ertz. And he's not Gronkowski. He's not quite Travis Kelce. But trust me, he is close to either one of those. And for this team, he is that guy. He is Nick Foles' favorite target. And he's going to be a load and a handful and a force for the New England Patriots defense that's just pretty good. It finally rose and shone in the fourth quarter. Forced, I guess the last three went punt, 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 and then on downs, they missed on the fourth down throw thanks to Stephon Gilmore. And as I tweeted, Stephon Gilmore made his whole free agent package of millions on one play. He didn't have much of a year. It took him a long time to blend in and figure out this defense. But Blake Bortles stepped up in the pocket on that fourth and long, fourth and 10-ish or so, from the Patriot 43 with 147 left in that game. And Bortles I think he sort of wrong foot through it. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying he stepped up in the pocket and threw it off, as he stepped forward with his right foot. And, man, it looked like he'd thrown a strike to D.D. Westbrook, University of Oklahoma, go Sooners, who looked like he had a step on Stephon Gilmore, and Gilmore just launched and went up and made an incredibly athletic one-hand bat of the football, knocked down. And we might be having a different conversation, I don't know, but he would have had still, Tom Brady would have had 1 minute and 47 seconds left. And I figure Tom Brady, even at age 40, would have figured that out and pulled it off. But back to the Eagles. He's going to have his hands full. The Eagles can rush the passer better than the Jacksonville Jaguars can. Trust me on this. The one thing that was overrated about Saxonville, they don't rush the passer that great. They weren't the Denver Broncos. Malik Jackson played for the Broncos, and Malik wasn't much of a factor today, but he was I guess the last time Tom Brady lost a playoff game was at the end of the 2015 season, AFC Championship game against Von Miller and company at Denver. That was Malik Jackson pushing that pocket so that Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, Dallas Cowboy, could loop and beat their men outside and get to Tom Brady as he got pushed backwards instead of being able to step up. And Malik Jackson couldn't do that today. Dexter Fowler had a couple of nice rushes. Miles Jack had one terrific blitz right up the middle and just nailed Tom Brady. Brady took some shots today, but he wasn't overwhelmed by the pass rush the way he was that day in Denver from Von Miller especially. So this is going to be a different beast this time. Philly can rush the passer from lots of angles with lots of edgy, sort of veteran, crafty, savvy pass rushers coached by Jim Schwartz, who coaches them to have edge. It's got a nastiness to it that I didn't get from Jacksonville. That's just me, but they do that wide nine where they split their ends wide. And even that kid, Derek Barnett from Tennessee, he had a big sack today. It's just, and forced, was that a forced fumble? Yeah, forced the fumble. And that's the one, another turnover for Case Keenum. But they force fumbles. They're going to knock the ball free, and they come from everywhere. Fletcher Cox, and I can just go on and on. And they're deep with pass rushers, and they have a fierceness to them. They have a physical edge to them I just didn't get from Jacksonville. So the challenge ratchets it up a little bit for the offensive line, not a little bit, a lot, to protect Tom Brady. If you can't, you can't win. And that whole front seven, it's veteran toughness. Jacksonville brought elite young athleticism, but that brings me, by the way, to my random thought on Jalen Ramsey. I will guarantee you, Jalen Ramsey, I will guarantee he will not play in the Super Bowl. I guarantee it. You can take that to the bank. You can print it, publish it, post it. I guarantee Jalen Ramsey will not play in the Super Bowl. Just a thought. But the Eagles are playing this Super Bowl, and their back four, again, maybe not the elite athleticism of Jalen Ramsey. I have nothing but respect for the way he can play the game as the next potential Deion Sanders from Florida State. But in Nashville, Tennessee, home of Vanderbilt University, the best school in America by far. But that back four with Darby, Malcolm Jenkins, and company, they're just veteran savvy. They're usually in the right place at the right time, playing the right defense, and they'll be tough on Tom Brady. If he has time, he will have success. I'm not sure he's going to have quite as much time. And now Chris Long's returned to wreak some revenge on the Patriots. Not that he cares, but he said, I don't want to play a few snaps a game. I want to be a starter. So he got his snaps and he got his money. Howie Long's kid, God bless. Seems like wherever he goes, good things happen. And maybe he will make good things happen in this Super Bowl. Obviously, I'm already leaning Patriots because I picked him before the season started. But Nick Foles is really good. That football team is really good. The kicker's pretty good. The punter is pretty good. The coaching staff has grown on me. I wasn't that sold. I've always been sold on Jim Schwartz. I wasn't that sold on Doug Peterson. But here's the point. Shannon Sharp he's got that lame nickname. I don't even get it. Walk it to him wins. I have no idea what that means. It makes me wince, the nickname does. But whatever. You can see me go at it with Shannon Sharp, the Hall of Famer, tomorrow, 9:30 to noon Eastern Time on Fox Sports 1. And by the way, tomorrow, along with Shannon's got backup tomorrow. I mean, big backup. Snoop Dogg, the Snoop Dogg, is back again on Undisputed. He said before it's his favorite show on television, and he's going to join us probably in our last, I assume it's our last hour. Not sure about that. You never know about Snoop, but when he comes, he'll be there, and he always shows up, and he will show out. And we will ask him about Tom Brady. He's performed in Foxborough before, so I think he knows craft. He'll have a deeper feeling about Brady and what he's accomplished, and we're going to get into all of my themes. Brady's playing better now at age 40 than LeBron James is at 33. LeBron's showing his age on defense and in second halves, especially lately, and Tom Brady looks like he's 40 going on 24, right? I mean, have you seen any drop-off? Was Bob Kraft not right to force Bill Belichick's hands and make him trade a young quarterback that he was starting to consider like a son in Jimmy Garoppolo? According to the ESPN story and my sources and what I thought all along is Bob Kraft said, I'm sorry, he's got to go. And unfortunately for Robert Kraft, he should have let his son make the trade as sort of a quasi-GM of the team, president of the team. And he left it in his football operations manager's hand, and that's Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick gave away Jimmy Garoppolo for a second-round pick to San Francisco. He argues, well, I knew they were going to cut Brian Hoyer and that he would come to us as kind of quote-unquote part of the deal. Now, you could have gotten a lot more from Cleveland for Jimmy Garoppolo. You could have gotten a first and, who knows, maybe a first and a second for Jimmy Garoppolo. But he wanted him to be somewhere other than quarterback hell in Cleveland. He wanted him to be in San Francisco, where he could be with a Kyle Shanahan that Bill Belichick is already starting to love like a son. According to the ESPN magazine piece, Seth Wickersham's, they spent 4 or 5 hours together at the Combine going over why Atlanta fell in the second half. You know, what did Kyle Shanahan do wrong against Bill Belichick's defense? I don't know why Belichick would give him all the secrets, but because at some point you'd think you'd have to play against him. And yet it looks like Bill Belichick was sabotaging the Patriots' future because he didn't like having his hand forced because he wanted to go forward with Jimmy Garoppolo. And Robert Kraft said, in Brady I trust, and Brady's saying he wants to play for 4 more years or all the way up to 45. And Robert Kraft said, I'm siding with my quarterback. Brilliant decision. It paid huge dividends tonight once again. So here we go again. We've got Tom Brady playing better than LeBron. We've got Tom Brady showing more big stage clutchness than Michael Jeffrey Jordan ever had an opportunity to show. I'm not saying that in a vacuum he's more clutch than Michael, but he's had so many more opportunities. Because remember, Michael, he never even got to a Game 7 in his finals. Maybe he's too good for his own good, but every opportunity Brady has had, and he's had a bunch of them up against it. Long odds, fourth quarters against the St. Louis Rams in that first Super Bowl, in the shootout against the Carolina Panthers in the second Super Bowl. Go look at all the third downs Brady converted in those 2 games to set up, obviously, the long-distance field goals, 40-something yard field goals by Adam Vinatieri to win those 2 games. But then Legion of Boom in the fourth quarter and you're down 10. You throw for 124 in the fourth quarter against that Seattle defense, 13 out of 15. And then Atlanta, you're obviously down 28-3, but you go into the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter in overtime, you throw for 246 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's crazy clutch. And then today, you're down 10 to Jacksonville. And I know a lot of people out there, because I bumped into a lot of them over the last 2 days, rooting like mad for Jacksonville to end the dynasty. Get rid of Tom Brady, get him out of our sight. We're sick and we're tired of Tom Brady. And what did he do again today? All-time clutch. In the fourth quarter, he throws for 138 yards. And he finally did get a little help from his defense, but he didn't get any help from his running game. He didn't get any help from his receivers. Occasionally, he had big drops. Gronk had a big drop in the first half. Brandon Cooks had a huge drop in the second half. And even James White had a ball hit him right in the hands. And he should have caught it, hung on to it. He did not, although it was a pretty good defensive play. But the ball should have been caught. That's how great Tom Brady was today to overcome that. And then the turnover that I think shouldn't have been, but it was a turnover, so they even lost the turnover battle. Jacksonville had none. Blake Bortles played like Eli Bortles. You had the Tom Coughlin hex going on Tom Brady. Tom Brady's had nothing but trouble against Tom Coughlin, especially in the 2 Super Bowls that Eli beat him in. And it looked like it was Eli Bortles because Blake Bortles was sensational today. Threw for almost 300 yards. Bunch of third down conversions. I think they had 6 total, but Brady was only 3 of 12, or the offense 3 of 12 on third down. All the big throws, clutch throws, the late one to Danny Amendola along the back line of the end zone. It's just vintage Brady. He's getting better with time. It's like Tom versus Time is the documentary that's coming out, but Father Time's losing to Tom Brady. I'm going to knock on wood here because I don't want to jinx him to get hurt. But, I mean, anybody can get hurt at any time, but he's got this new approach with his trainer the last 4 or 5 years, that they work on pliability, on elasticity, long muscles, not short, powerful muscles, because the short, powerful muscles, under pressure, when they get hit, they tighten and they clench and they break. And bad things happen, and Brady flows with the hits. He took a shot from Miles Jack today, and he's incredible. And I haven't even mentioned, as I wind down here, that he had 10 stitches in the hand, because I don't care. Shannon Sharp said the other day on Undisputed, it was fabricated. They're just trying to create some new storyline for Tom Brady. What does he need a storyline for? To make Jacksonville prepare for Brian Hoyer? To plant seeds of excuses in case he loses to Jack? Come on. He's already won 5 Super Bowls. To create sympathy for Tom Brady? Why? He's playing in his 7th straight AFC Championship game. Who needs sympathy? He doesn't need anything. Just give him a football, let him throw it. I don't care if he had 10 stitches in his hand. Was it distracting to him? Sure. In the end, it just doesn't matter. He's Tom freaking Brady. He's so much better than Aaron Rodgers. It's laughable. It's like the point spread last week, the Eagles underdogs at home. It was laughable to me, and it's laughable that people keep coming on Undisputed trying to make a case that Aaron Rodgers is still better than Tom Brady. Really? He's won 1 Super Bowl in his life, and it seems like it was 15 years ago, and since then he's 5-6 in the postseason with 2 home losses.